Hi, welcome to Blog to Your Talent. This is lesson 29, and we are on the topic of new blogger mistakes, also known as the newbie mistakes. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and these are again the mistakes that are not going to completely ruin your blog post, but that if you make them are going to make you look very amateurish.
Professional.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to do that. So one of the mistakes you want to avoid is not using enough commas.
Okay.
And the reason, and now you've been told many times to use commas, probably if you've taken any traditional English writing course, to tell you please use commas and use them appropriately. And that's one of those things that can get complicated as to for where exactly you should use commas, but that's not what we're interested in this lesson. We're not interested in the very complicated uses of commas. We're interested in the very common use of commas, which means using them to put in your sentence a whole series of facts. So it's very much similar to a list or in a bullet point format where you have several things you want to list out and you use commas to separate it.
Okay.
And also when you want to transition thought, you can
When
use
you
a
take
comma.
your pause, and sometimes if you don't have that comma in there, someone's just going to run through it and it won't make sense. So you need to have that pause.
Right, and the reason why you want to have those commas for your reader is because when you are reading quickly, and remember that's what your blog post is doing here, is you're trying to present information that is to the point, that has already summarized something much longer. So you're trying to make it brief. If you don't put the commas in there, your reader's going to have to go back and reread one or two sentences before to figure out exactly where you transition your thought, or if you meant to group those two words together. It's actually very irritating, and they may not even know that you are missing the commas as such, but they will sense it. And in the actual written instructions of this lesson, I talk about how some of the older writers in the 19th century would tend to use punctuation very sparingly, especially the commas. And boy,
It's hard to read.
they're really hard to read. I find myself going back and forth several times to try to figure out, is he talking about the same person or is this part of the list?
Yeah.
So that's why they just didn't put enough commas. So it's possible to overuse commas, but no, not really. You could just use lots of commas. It doesn't matter.
Well, if it turns into a run-on sentence, that's when you want it. Don't use a comma in place of a period. If you need to stop a sentence and start a new one, I think that's where it could get to be too many commas.
Okay, great. So in this exercise, what I want you to do is go back to an older post where you had the About Me. You talked about your talent, why you're interested in the talents, the About Me post. And what I want you to do at the end of that post is to add a little sentence that says other interest, and then you list out with commas all the other interests that are not related to your talent. And this is a very nice way, of course, to inform people without going on into great detail what you might be interested in.
And if you're not sure, just think about how do you spend your time during the day.
Yeah.
Because, we spend time the way, oftentimes when we have spare time, how we want to spend our time. So if you have an hour to kill, what do you do with that time?
And the purpose of listing your other interests that are not related to your talent in a comma format is just to help others who are reading your blog to connect with you on an emotional or social level. So somebody reading you may discover that you live in the same part of the country that you live because maybe you like to hike in the desert. And you have somebody else also has that same interest and they want to connect with you. So put that in there. It helps build a sense of community with your readers. Happy Talent Journey. We'll see you on the next lesson.